Hi, Kathy White, Certified Professional Ergonomist. I'm here talking to you again about ergonomics and your home computer workstation. In the past, I've talked about how to set up your monitor in terms of being about an arm's length viewing distance away from the screen and having that line of sight, that horizontal line extending from your eyes to the top third of the screen. Today we're going to talk about what to do if you'd like to introduce another monitor into the equation. And for my examples today, we'll be focusing on a tablet, but you can apply these principles to other secondary screens that you're looking at using. So first, let's talk about when you would even be in a situation where you'd like to use another monitor. I would like to encourage you to first ask yourself if you actually have a need for another screen, or if it actually might just be more distracting for you to have another monitor in addition to your primary monitor. Oftentimes we talk about the concept of multitasking, and I see a lot of people use that second screen for having something like email pulled up. That can actually be very distracting if you're in a meeting or you're working on a project and then you hear a ding and you see that you received something in your inbox and you're constantly switching from one task to another. You're actually more productive if you're able to focus on one task at a time, and there's a big body of research that substantiates that point. So I would encourage you to first start by asking yourself, do I really need another monitor? A better use case would probably be if you're looking at documents on one of the screens in order to refer to material that is on your primary screen. And we're going to operate on the presumption that that is the situation that you are in. That being said, if you really want to have another monitor just on the side as reference, you certainly can. And in those situations, it might be okay if it's not in a great position in terms of what we just talked about. Maybe it's not right in front of you. Maybe it's not quite an arm's length viewing distance, or it's not at that height that we were talking about. If it's just off to the side and something that you're using as reference, then you might not need to apply all of those same principles as where you're spending the vast majority of your time. However, if you're in the situation that we're talking about where you're looking at documents on one screen, maybe you're dragging them onto your primary screen, you're looking back and forth, this is where you really need to introduce that second monitor and apply those same principles. So first thing you need to think about is getting this monitor around that same height and distance as what we were just talking about. And this is where you're probably going to have to get creative again. I used a box and I have a board game, and that helps kind of keep that tablet in a good position so that I'm able to be somewhat around that same height and distance and have it a little bit more in front of me as well. All of this gets really tricky when we start talking about two monitors, but what I'm going to do is kind of shift myself over, and I'm shifting over my mouse and external keyboard as well. So I'm trying to position myself where I'm more of a 50-50 split between the two monitors so I can perform the work that I need to perform without bending my neck or head in some awkward positions. This is a good posture to take where I've got the two screens as close to each other as possible, and I've centered myself between them, assuming I'm in a 50-50 split between the two monitors of use. However, if I'm going to spend more time with this primary screen in my work, I may want to shift over a little bit more towards that primary screen, and again, kind of get more in the scenario of using the secondary monitor as I refer to it during the work that I'm engaged in. It's going to be hard to get this perfect, but I hope you can see if you start using some props and some materials, and ideally trying to get these screens at the right height and distance, having the screens in front of you while you're working, and just being mindful of the type of work you're doing so that you are aware of when you are using a monitor more than another monitor so that you can try to keep yourself in front of the one that you're primarily working from. Again, think about multitasking and whether it actually makes sense for you to have that secondary screen should be your first question. The next question, if you have a secondary screen, is how much are you using it? And then finally, based on answering those two questions, that should help you determine whether you need two screens and also how to orient them next to each other. I hope this information helped you figure out how to set up some dual monitors in your home computer ergonomically correct workstation environment. Thanks for listening.